Denver's first round selection, Steve Atwater.
Atwater. Wow, what a sock by Atwater. Let's Atwater. You can stand up and salute in Denver. And you got the world champions that live in your town. That sounds like a David Baker knock.
From the iconic Orange Crush to the infamous no-fly zone, dynamic defenders have played a vital role in the Broncos' success over the last 63 seasons. Effective safety play is crucial for any dominant defensive unit, so it's only fitting that the Denver Broncos have enjoyed a rich tradition of great safeties. Broncos Ring of Fame safeties Austin Goose Gonsolin, Billy Thompson, Steve Foley, and Dennis Smith set the foundation that lured future Hall of Fame safeties Brian Dawkins and John Lynch to the Broncos late in their careers. But it was Steve Atwater who set the bar for those who have since, and will someday, don orange and blue in the Broncos' defensive backfield. Join us as we explore the Hall of Fame career of Steve Atwater, the smiling assassin on the field, the epitome of a true gentleman off of it. Well before the David Baker knock, back-to-back Super Bowls, and the unforgettable Okoye hit, an 8-year-old boy from St. Louis, Missouri, was introduced to football on a late summer afternoon.
My dad, he came out of the house and said, "Come on, let's go for a ride." So I hopped in the car and we wound up at this park in St. Louis, Penrose Park, right off Kings Highway. And I got out the car and, it was just groups of kids playing football in different groups and throwing the ball and, singing these chants. And we got signed up the next day and hey, that was it. I've been in football ever since that day.
Like other physically gifted kids, Steve was initially drawn to the quarterback position and was tasked with playing on both sides of the field in high school for the Lutheran North Crusaders.
I played quarterback since, I played Little League ball back from when I was 8 years old. I used to come in to throw the deep ball. And once I got to high school, I got to be the quarterback. I really took to it. Again, I don't think I was a great quarterback. I think I was better on the defensive side of the ball, but I also wanted to go to college to play quarterback, which doesn't make any sense.
When the Arkansas Razorbacks recruited Steve, they could tell whatever shortcomings he had as a signal caller, he could quickly make up for as a big hitter. It didn't take long for Arkansas head coach Ken Hatfield to ask Steve about switching to defense.
After like the third day of practice, once I got up there on campus, he called me in the office. He's like, "Hey, Steve, if you stay at quarterback position, it may be a while before you play. But if you move over to safety, what I would like to do is I would like for you to travel with the team with us and get a chance to see the speed of the game, be in the locker room and all that good stuff." So I was like, "Hey, that's it, I'm good." And plus, it was kind of difficult picking up that offense, and I'll forget my stats, my passing stats. I want to say it was like 800 yards passing. I thought I was the man. I was like, that's not very many yards. But I think he saw in the film, he's like, the guy can't throw, but hey, when he throws the interception, he's going to destroy the guy that catches the interception. So they made that offer. I was like, yeah, let's do it. And I was happy from that point on.
As Atwater honed his skills on the gridiron, a medical student on the other side of campus was working towards her own future. When the two finally met, it didn't take long for them to realize they'd found the person they would tackle life with.
I was walking across campus and I think I was in front of like the business building and he was a business major, but I just happened to be crossing campus. And that was the first time we actually met. He was kind of, like playful, I think, when we first met. So, I don't know, I don't want to say immature, but, just like a really sweet guy, which was different from guys in college, especially the athletes in college. So he wasn't like that.
And she was in med school. When she'd be in school, I'd be off working out, running in the streets, backpedaling, doing all kind of crazy stuff.
It was hard for us to really find like quality time together because we were both so focused on what was coming next that it was just really hard for both of us, I think, during that time to just like be together without thinking about like, he's like, oh, I need to go run. I'm like, I need to go study. And so it was like that most of the time.
You know, my friends and I, we pushed each other. We all wanted to be better. Coaches pushed us too, but we said, no, take the coaches out of it. This is just us. Do we want to be great? You know, and then we just had a whole different mindset. Just, you know, the way we approached our off-season workouts and, you know, just building that really close-knit team there.
I played with Baylor. He was at Arkansas. So we got to see each other every year. He was one of the guys in college that I, as a defensive player, would stand up and look at even in college. And then we got drafted the same year. We ended up going to the Hula Bowl and playing together. And it was no fluke. It was no fluke. The guy just was reckless. He was about bringing physicality and being real ferocious and doing things on that side of the ball that a lot of DBs didn't do.
You know, I was a young kid from St. Louis, and I know I couldn't go back home. I had no going back home. There was nothing, you know, for me to really go back there and do. I get a type of job there, but so I had to make it work. And I wasn't thinking about the NFL or anything like that. I was just thinking, hey, I got to stay here and play football and just, you know, try to be the best that I can. My friend, the guy who played in front of me, he got drafted in the second round. And I was like, man, he got drafted in the second round. Like, I can at least get drafted in the third round or fourth round. And so I just, from that point on, like, I was a clean guy. Like, I'm gonna try to focus in and see what I can do with it. And then I remember one day I was in our trainer's office, and like, it was after a game or something. My hands were banged up, you know, bleeding, and, you know, just from tackling, you know, you break your nails and all that stuff. And I was like, Dean, what can I do? He's like, man, those hands are gonna make you a lot of money one day. And I was like, say what? Like, what do you know that I don't know? Because I wasn't into it. I didn't have any idea. So I think those two things kind of, you know, put in the back of my mind that I could possibly do it. It was, you know, it was possible that I could make it to the NFL.
Coming up next,
Denver's first-round selection, Steve Atwater, defensive back, Arkansas.
as Atwater's time at Arkansas was coming to a close, he had established himself as one of the top players in school history, with a record 14 interceptions and bowl game appearances in 3 of the 4 years he played in Fayetteville. Despite Steve's dominance at the collegiate level, he was still unsure how much interest he would get from NFL scouts.
In that time, he was exactly what people were looking for. Range, intelligence, finished plays, understood offenses, new route combinations. I mean, even as a young player. And a lot of guys can make big hits, but not a lot of guys as a 22-year-old, a 21-year-old can show that understanding. And I think that combination made him a first-round pick.
Steve might be surprised he was a first-round draft choice, but I think anybody who followed college football, I mean, it's a rare combination when you have that size of an athlete that has that kind of ability to move and change directions. And then obviously Steve was always a big hitter.
It was known that Denver was looking for a safety, and when the time came, at that time, Wade Phillips was our defensive coordinator, Charlie Waters was our defensive backfield coach, and they talked about a couple of guys.
It came up in a meeting where some of the people like Louis Oliver, who was a very similar player as Steve, and then there was a contingency of looking at Steve to make him the choice. And we were going back and forth and back and forth.
You know, I remember the scouts who came out, Mike Hagan and Ron Hill. I remember meeting them at the East-West Shrine game. And I just remember practicing at the East-West Shrine game. And I was not used to letting running backs, like if they're coming through the hole, I'm going to run up, I'm going to thud you up. And that means kind of tackle you and then kind of let you go. But we weren't doing that. And I was getting mad, like, hey man, we can't let these guys do this, man. We get used to this. You know, I don't want to get used to guys running through here and nobody's touching them. And I was yelling at them on the field, getting our guys fired up, and then everybody started thudding up, and we ended up doing well in the game.
We had a good team, we had good players, and we were looking for a player that has good leadership, and Steve fit the bill.
Well, I think everybody in the scouting department and coaches really loved Steve as far as a player and a potential. But Dan Reeves was really the guy that made the final decision and really influenced everybody that, hey, we needed a safety and we needed Steve Atwater.
On April 23, 1989, the NFL draft began, and the Broncos knew they needed a safety. They made the decision that would change the course of Broncos history.
I had some of my family come down from St. Louis and some of my people from Arkansas over at my wife's now. It was my girlfriend back then at her apartment.
We had people in, like his whole family was there, and we decided, because he hadn't gone, you know, we were waiting, and then we decided we'd go out and play basketball, which was right outside of the apartment. So we went and we started shooting basketball between like announcements.
I remember them sitting in front of TV and then the phone ringing. And I just looked over to my wife and looked around the room like, this phone is ringing, like it's really ringing. We answered, and it was the Broncos.
All right, Andrea, and there is the Broncos pick is in the hands of the commissioner, Pete Rozelle, presiding over his 30th draft today.
Denver Broncos, Denver's first-round selection, Steve Atwater, defensive back, Arkansas.
I remember just the big embrace with his parents. Some of our friends were there, and we had like the food and the champagne and everything. We just had like a really big celebration.
Couldn't believe it. You know, we were all crying, and it was such a happy moment. Hey, I've been Broncos through and through since that day, back in 1989.
Well, I think I fit in really well with the defense. They were talking about moving Dennis Smith. Well, I think he played strong safety last year, but he'll be playing strong safety. I think he'll be a good night at the free safety position. You know, I'll have some responsibilities as a linebacker also, but whatever it takes, I'm ready to do it.
He'll have an impact on your football team because he's that physical of a player. He's that type of leader, that type of hitter. He's a guy that when he hits them, he stops them in their track. He's the guy that, coming across the middle that really intimidates receivers coming in that area. I think he'll come in and help us develop the type of toughness that we're looking for.
Steve Atwater, The Road to Canton, is presented by Icon Pass, the preferred ski pass of Broncos country.
The late 80s were a time of great success for the Broncos, but a Super Bowl victory still eluded them. But in the summer of '89, a key figure in the franchise's first world title was landing in Denver, as Steve Atwater left Arkansas to begin his NFL career.
I wanted to come in. I wanted to play early if I could. I've always had the mentality that I want to learn and know what I'm doing. I don't want to step out there if I'm not ready, I want to say sometime in May, I was up here going through the playbook, working out.
Yeah, Steve, you got it. You got it, Steve? You got it. Hey, we'll have it together in practice. We'll have it in practice. Well, how about now? I got it more. How about now? You got it together. We got it now?
I can remember when Steve was drafted, and this is a true story. Charlie Waters, who was our defensive backs coach at the time, came up to me and said, you got to see our first round draft pick. And I wasn't paying a lot of attention, so I went down and there was this guy running around in the field. I said, I didn't know we drafted a linebacker. And he says, no, he's a safety. I said, that guy's no safety, come on. 6'4", 235 or whatever you were, Steve, but he went on to be one of the greatest safeties in football.
I mean, he was as big as any linebacker in the room. Big dude. In fact, his nickname, I don't know how many people know this, is Lumba. Stiff as a lumber, stiff as lumber, lumber.
So when we were calling him lumber, which he thought we meant he was laying the wood, knocking people out, we meant he was stiff as a board. So it was like lumber. lumber, like wood. It's like a nickname that was just in fun. We already accepted him because we knew he was a great player.
He wanted to be the best safety in the league and knew that he had like big shoes to fill with Ronnie Law and Dennis, people who played at a really high caliber. And so for him, it was like, this is what I want, and I know what I have to do because these are the guys that I'm chasing, so to speak.
One of the amazing things about Steve when he came in was, yes, I'm the 20th pick in the entire draft. I'm probably the best athlete on the field, but he was humble. He wanted to learn. He asked me questions all the time. He asked Dennis questions even more.
You in the post?
Huh? You in the post?
Yeah, usually in zero. I just want me up the wing.
Just play true. Just go where he's looking, you know?
Huh?
Just go where he's looking. I told him everything he needed to know, and he listened to everything I told him, and he became a great player. And I'm proud of that. I always feel like, I always tell him, I feel like a proud papa. I felt like I was such a big influence on him because he took everything I told him and he took it to the next level.
Hey, they get down in stance, get up. You gotta be up. Pass.
He was an immediate impact to this team. In '89, his first season, I think he had, as a rookie, 129 tackles, and our defense went from 20th against the run to 7th. And that was in that window where Wade Phillips, I think, first started experimenting with bringing safeties up to support the front 7.
Wade Phillips had a way of utilizing in a certain way. You know, he, like on third downs, he would put him in as, take a linebacker out and they would put him in the linebacker position. And they would blitz him a lot from that position on third down. So in this particular play, he was blitzing, but he got picked up. Atwater's on the line of scrimmage, and the quarterback has got to be maybe 4 yards off the line of scrimmage. So he turns and he throws the ball. Now, you would think you would just jump up and try to knock the ball down, but Atwater, he didn't do that. He jumped and he intercepted the ball. I have never seen that done by anybody since. That was the moment for me where I said, wow, he is a special player.
He could do everything. He could play in coverage. He could blitz. He could stop the run. There wasn't anything he couldn't do, which I think helped recreate the position.
His first year, we came in and actually we led the league in least points given up. So, I mean, playing safety is a big part of that. And, you know, he made a lot of tackles at the line of scrimmage and made a lot of coverage plays and just had an outstanding rookie year.
Wade's an innovator, and I think he saw, even before a lot of other people, that what Steve Atwater could be as a player in the right situation, used the right way.
And he just created the defense, and it was one that me and Dennis, we just worked perfectly together in.
We the trucks, they the Ferraris. When we have some collisions, what happens with the collisions? When a guy driving a truck run into a Ferrari, he usually get out and say, damn, you all right?
It was just uncommon to see athletes that big playing safety.
To be overlooked as a linebacker, the running back's hitting the hole and he's looking past you to the secondary. That's a whole different experience.
I'm not sure you're going to find many, if any, better safety tandems in the history of the league. And I can find several people in the NFL right now who say Dennis Smith should be in Canton.
Like I said, I didn't know much about the Broncos. I didn't know about Dennis until I got here, and I was like, how do I not know about this guy? This guy is the man. Just being on the field and watching him play, I'm like, dude, I got to step it up.
In the pregame, they would always stand at the 50-yard line and let everybody see what the two big safeties look like. Maybe intimidation or whatever, but they said, watch out, we're here.
To this day, I look up tape of Steve and Dennis Smith hitting people, and they wouldn't have no money today if they played today. Any and everybody that came through their zone in the opposite color jersey got hit.
Dennis and Steve together were a combination that if I was a receiver coming in to play this duo, I wouldn't want to be targeted much across the middle at all. Maybe deep or maybe on the sidelines, but I wouldn't want to come anywhere near these two guys.
Steve, I'm sure, would say, in fact, I've heard him say it, that he benefited from having Dennis around because Dennis had been through the wars, he'd been through the battle. In terms of a tandem of safeties, I can't think of two better safeties that have ever played.
The Broncos won their 4th AFC title in 1989, but once again, the Lombardi Trophy was lifted by the opposing team. It would be a moment that Steve Atwater would use to push himself to an even higher level of play.
It took me a long time to recover from that one, because I thought we were going into the game like, man, we got a chance, you know, and we did. We had a chance, but once we stepped on the field and we started playing, it was like they had our playbook.
Hold up now, hey man, we ain't having no fun, man. We ain't bull. Yeah, let's make some plays. Loosen up, man. Tackle them, the other guys will get them.
We have been practicing this play where Jerry Rice is coming across the field, and you know, I back up in the coverage and I see him coming, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna light him up. And the same thing, it unfolded in the game the same way it did in practice, and I went over and I hit him, and it was kind of awkward the way that I tried to hit him. He just bounced off of me and ran into the end zone. I'm sitting there on the ground looking over like, man, how did this happen?
I think he really felt like he didn't play his best game, and that maybe the loss that he contributed in a way that he was not comfortable with. He was disappointed in himself more than anything. He just wanted to be better. And then he put the effort in to make sure that he could make that happen.
Just like sports and life in general, you're gonna have some days that aren't your day, that, you know, you're gonna wish you could crawl underneath a rock. It was a bad feeling, and it was one of the worst feelings that I ever had, and I'm glad that that never happened to me again, and especially on a stage that big.
You know, you learn things winning, but you also learn things in losses, and you got to bounce back in football. It's forget the last play or the last game and go to the next one, and that's what Steve did.
In the 1990 home opener, under the bright lights of Monday Night Football, Steve Atwater sent shockwaves through the league when he did what no other defensive player had ever done before.
Take it to the promised land, baby. Showtime, baby. Showtime in the Mile High City. Let's go to work.
Let's go, Slow.
They got Okoye at fullback.
I don't give a he play wide receiver.
I remember going through that week and Steve coming to me and saying, okay, how are you going to attack Christian Okoye? And I can remember saying, well, I think I'm going to hit him high, and I'm going to try to run right through him.
I remember Dennis, you know, we sit next to each other in meetings, and he was on my left, and like his left arm, he can't lift it all the way up. He's like, hey, we gotta make sure we stay up high on nobody else. They're going low on him. They got to stay up high. He got to throw his arm up like that, literally.
Well, you know, Christian's one of these guys that was 265 pounds, and he actually, you know, ran 4.5, 40, and he was a big man. But they collided, and, you know, Steve laid him on his back. I've never seen anybody ever do that to Christian Okoye.
Hey, Christian's still in. Let's go. Baby, we got to lay it on his ass this time, baby. Let me ready to give it up. Lock it up, lock it up, lock it up, lock it up, lock it up.
Okoye up the middle. And he is knocked dead in his tracks. What a hit.
Atwater.
Wow, what a sock by Atwater.
That one play catapulted him to Canton because it was mic'd up, and NFL Films captured him saying, yeah, you tried, baby.
You tried, baby.
You tried, baby. I mean, that's an all-timer. And I don't even think Steve probably realized at that point he was mic'd.
It was like everything just kind of stopped for a moment. I was incredibly proud of him.
I don't know if Franklin Okoye has ever gone backwards like that.
I couldn't have planned that if I wanted to, kind of help him up and say the stuff I said to Tyrone Brown. I don't even know what I was thinking.
Why'd you help him up? Mind game, baby. Mind game. Hey, mind game. I know what I'm doing.
Everything just worked out perfectly on that play, and I'm glad that it did.
It was a colossal hit, and I remember that. And then at the time, then the video came out, and then the video was used next week on Monday Night Football. They showed that highlight from the previous week.
I saw the play that everyone remembers Steve for, the Christian Okoye hit. And when I saw that, I said immediately, I want to do that. I want to be a safety.
When I saw the hit, I was like, yes, because those kinds of hits are remembered. they're timeless. That hit on a guy who was thought to be kind of indestructible, you know, couldn't be knocked off his feet like that. And, you know, Steve just, you know, he put him down like a little child.
The intimidating force Steve brought to game days clashed with his humble persona off the field, so it was only fitting that he became known as the Smiling Assassin.
I thought it was I still think it's kind of corny, but I think it's kind of cool too, because that's kind of how my personality is. I'm a happy guy, and I used to try and be really physical.
It was almost like trying to run through a brick wall when he was tackling. And then right after the play, he's like jumping up and smiling again and like had some noise to talk, so.
Okay, don't get mad at me, Tito. Cheaters never win.
If you know Steve off the field, you know that he is unflailingly polite. He's just a great dude. You wouldn't ever, if you met him, except for the idea of him being bigger than most humans, you would never know that he played the game in the NFL the way he played it, because he was ferocious and he would knock the taste out of your mouth.
You talk to him and he's a sweet kind, you know, oh shucks golly kind of guy, but you put that helmet on him, it's a whole different animal.
The tape speaks for itself, and he owned that territory. You went in Steve Atwater's area, you were going to pay for it, and he was clean, he played within the rules, but he was certainly physical, and he let people know it wasn't free going in his area, and I always respected that.
Smiling Assassin, everybody understands and knows that. They know that he's a fantastic guy, fantastic husband, fantastic dad. But what you couldn't know is the intensity that he plays with on game days. We were taking the field and we gone through warm-ups, and of course I was very, very hyped. I was excited about it. And I hear something from the back of the defense. It was Steve Atwater screaming, "Yeah, let's go, let's take these dudes out." And I was like, where did that come from? It took me to a whole new level, because I was like, finally somebody plays with the same kind of passion and attitude as I do, and it just shocked me.
When you needed somebody to bring it and come up and give a big hit, you know, Atwater was that guy. And on top of that, the greatest guy on the planet, and a great teammate, a pro. I just can't say enough great things about him.
Always happy, always had a smile on his face, always had a laugh and a giggle, and then just would absolutely try to decapitate you.
Steve Atwater, The Road to Canton, brought to you by Icon Pass, the preferred ski pass of Broncos country.
In the early 90s, Steve continued to prove that he wasn't someone you wanted to line up across from. He was selected to 7 consecutive Pro Bowls, earned 2 All-Pro nods, and helped the team reach the playoffs 3 more times by the end of the 96 season. When Mike Shanahan returned to Denver in 1995 as the Broncos head coach, he knew he could rely on Atwater to be a leader.
Well, the one thing that was interesting with Steve is when he was drafted in '89, I came back after the 4th game. I was with the Raiders. I was with the Broncos when we went to the Super Bowl. So I had a chance to be around Steve 89, 90, and 91. And then when I came back in 1995 as a head coach, it was pretty easy for me to know what Steve Atwater was all about, how well he played, and what a complete player he was and how he handled himself.
On offense, they're sort of telling John Elway, look, you have to be a piece of a bigger puzzle. You know, the run game's going to be important, play action's going to be important, and he bought into that. And I think defensively, Steve's on the other side of that.
We knew that his system was kind of the 49er West Coast system, and then the offense, they just started putting up points left and right.
I would go over there and tell him, hey man, y'all get ready to go, because we know we're going to score real quick. He's like, what? Dude, we're tired. Hell, y'all slow down. I said, dude, do you want us to score points or not? He's like, why? why don't y'all get some drives? I said, dude, we got TD. We ain't taking drive. We're gonna run TD 3 times. We're gonna do pass to pass over top. One of us, me, Sharp, or Eddie, gonna catch it. Next thing you know, we'll be in the end zone. And they would be pissed because we were scoring too fast. I said, dude, we could be a team that doesn't score.
We figured we had that offensive side together, and then, fortunately we were able to get our defense together. And with Mike coming in, I think he instilled a whole nother attitude in us too. And I just think we just felt like we were fresher and we were better. We felt that, like, all right, we go in this game, we about to destroy these guys.
In the 1996 AFC divisional round, Denver was stunned by the Jacksonville Jaguars, but it proved to be the necessary motivation for the Broncos to enter the 97 season with little doubt about what the team could achieve. It also turned out to be the final playoff loss of Steve Atwater's career.
We had a really good football team, and for us to lose that expansion team was very hard on everybody in the organization because we had a great year being 13-3. We felt like we had a chance to do something special in the playoffs.
That game, it was crazy. And I think I had a thigh bruise that game, and I had to come out because I couldn't run. And I felt like I let my team down. I'm like, man, I'm over on the sidelines. I saw Mark Brunell scramble, and, I think he hit Keenan McCardell on the pass, and, I'm just sitting there watching.
We all took that to heart. And our leaders took it to heart even more. And Steve was one of those leaders. And you could tell the last thing he wanted to happen was us to feel that way again. And so he took it personal. He took it upon himself as a leader of the team to do any and everything in his power to make sure that his play led us. Not talking, not jawing. He just played a certain way. And I think everybody rallied around that. And you just saw play after play after play on defense, which on offense, because of the way we really picked up off of that energy, and we went from there.
But when we came back there next year, our confidence was at an all-time high, even though we had lost the game to Jacksonville. I think we had gotten a few more players on the team, and everything just seemed to play out, and we were having the best time of our lives.
He was a guy that was accountable. You never had to worry about him. He would lead the other players. If he had a player on the team that wasn't doing things the right way, he would use his personality in the way he would do it. He's low key, saying, hey, this is how we do things around here. If you want to be on this team, you want to stay on this team, we're going to have to do things a little differently. So he was a natural leader.
Quiet guy, but again, led by example. And when he had to talk, he talked. And he not only helped guys on defense, he helped me out as well. I've always said this, for me, as a rookie, when I have a guy like Steve who pulls me aside after a drill and says, hey, man, on last time you were in the game, I knew what you guys were doing, because you were tipping it off with, whether you were looking to the left or, my stance had me tipping off the play. So listening to him and taking his advice really helped me a lot.
We had a team full of great players. And I remember, just kind of looking at our roster, I'm like, we don't have a weakness on our defense at any position. We are strong at every single position. Mike Shanahan and the scouts made sure that, hey, we're going to bring the best guys in here to play, and we're going to compete, and guys who don't like competition, they are going to be here.
Steve was always the kind of teammate you wanted. And I remember every field goal that I had, just about, he was the first one on the field to congratulate me. And so he always had a way of, making you feel good, making you feel like, you're contributing and we're going to win this thing. And it was always so positive.
He just was really enthusiastic, and that kind of genuine enthusiasm is really contagious, especially when it comes from one of your leaders, a guy that obviously is one of your best players.
First of all, he got me out of free agency, and one thing that he said to me is that, being in free agency, that, Neil, you all we need, on this defense for us to win the Super Bowl. I love the fact that, Atwater was one of the biggest reasons. And, he was the defensive mouthpiece that we needed.
Yeah, there's the leadership aspect, the playing hurt aspect, all the things that he brought. There's no question that he brought all those things. But just the enforcement aspect of what he brought to the back end of that defense and how he was going to punish you. And there was no question that teams, had him circled, saying this guy is a legit football playing Jesse.
He played exceptional in 97 and 98 in all the playoff games. And I think that's why people, when they go back and look at Steve, they go, oh my God, why wasn't he in years ago?
Kansas City and Pittsburgh, two very tough places to win on the road in the playoffs. But we just felt like we could do it. I remember the Kansas City game, they're driving down and just the last play of the game, they threw it up and Darren Gordon tipped it up. I was trying to intercept it, but he tipped it. And I looked around because I thought the guy had a chance to catch it, and he did it. And I'm like, yes. I remember the Steelers game with Shannon Sharp having to make a clutch catch down the stretch to keep the drive alive and not get them the ball back. Those were two amazing games, and they were so much fun, and it was a beautiful feeling.
Coming up next, Steve Atwater knew he would get another chance at a title, and when he did, he didn't waste it. Facing the defending world champion Green Bay Packers in Super Bowl 32 wouldn't be easy, but then again, nothing about the Broncos' 1997 playoff run was. As a 12-point underdog, Atwater understood the challenge: stop future Hall of Fame quarterback Brett Favre.
Steve did a lot of things in his career. When I look back at his career, one of the things that I think that he treasures the most, and I know I treasure the most, is Super Bowl 32. In that game, if it wouldn't have been for Terrell Davis, I think you would have had the MVP trophy because you played that well. I'll always remember you for that.
Third down time. Blitz. Atwater makes the hit. Is it a fumble? If it is, it's Denver's ball.
The sack, Brett Favre. I saw the whole play, literally. Steve hit Brett Favre, caused a fumble. It really changed the whole game around. That Super Bowl game, they knew that they were in trouble.
Well, making that key blitz and getting the ball for us, that was a huge play, especially a game like that. You had to kind of keep that in mind. This is the biggest game we're going to play in. We're double-digit underdogs, and our defense came to play, and Steve was the main reason.
Steve knocked down two passes. One of the passes he knocked down, it's a 24-24 game, and if Favre completes it to Robert Brooks, it's going to be a field goal for the Packers.
3rd and 8. The blitz. And the throw. And Atwater knocks it away at the last minute. Brooks was open.
And it takes a terrific play by Steve Atwater to stop the touchdown.
There are a handful of guys, normally those guys are on defense, that simply from their physical presence, their willingness to deliver a blow, a single blow, that can just change the course of the game. And Steve, to me, he was always that guy.
We had been there so many times before and never won. And then the fact that not only did they win it, but he was a big part of that reason that they won it. He played great in the biggest moment of his life, and that's something that I still wish I had done, and I didn't.
In that game with 37 seconds left, it's 3rd down and 6, and Green Bay's got the ball.
They better get some heat on Favre because they're really not getting close to him.
I just remember dropping back into coverage, and I saw Brett Favre throw that pass up, and I just was thinking, I can't let anybody catch this pass. Not right now.
Steve knocks out Randy Hilliard. Brooks goes down, Steve goes down. Ray Crockett was hurt the play before, so here we go into 4th and 6, and we got everything on the line.
I was out of it, so I didn't realize that, all right, it's 4th down next. So I came off to the sidelines. I'm just sitting there watching the game, not realizing that, hey, if we get off the field here, we win.
Favre with Levens behind him. 4th and 6 for the 31. Blitz is on. Favre hit as he throws. Pass is going to be incomplete. Denver holds. Bronco players are all over the field. You can stand up and salute in Denver. And you got the world champions that live in your town.
He didn't care who was there because he's trying to do everything in his power to help us win the game. And that play helped us, become Super Bowl champs for the very first time in Denver and then go on to win 2.
To this day, I would maintain that the Super Bowl that Steve Atwater played in Super Bowl 32 was the finest game that any safety in any Super Bowl ever has played.
I believe, just like a lot of people, if I didn't get MVP of that game, Steve Atwater was probably going to get it. Had the forced fumble, had to knock the ball away, made a lot of key plays in that game, knocked out everybody on one play, even our own teammates. Like, he was just out there doing his thing, but that was Steve.
That's what you play for. You don't play for the Hall of Fame. That's not what we play for. I didn't play for the Hall of Fame. I didn't say, I want to be in the Hall of Fame. I said, I want to win Super Bowls. So that's why it's so important. You play well in those games to win Super Bowl. So him winning that first Super Bowl was a big monkey off the Broncos back because the Broncos hadn't won.
We were there many a times, but to finally do it, you have to have everybody go in the same direction. Steve Atwater was one of those players that could make people play their best and make everybody accountable, and that's the only way you win those type games.
To this day, that was my most exciting moment, realizing that we're world champions, man. We did it together. And I couldn't have been with a better group of guys, better group of coaches. It was beautiful.
In 1998, Steve was ready to put together one more playoff run for the team that drafted him nearly a decade prior. The Broncos dominated the league and delivered Broncos country its second consecutive world title.
Come on now, the record speaks for itself. The record and, just the confidence, the coaching, everything was there. The ownership, the fans.
That year, we were trailing in the AFC title game to the Jets at Mile High Stadium. The first half, I think, was like 10-0. Then it was like a different team came out of the locker room, offensively and defensively, and really destroyed the Jets in the second half. And I remember right after the game ended, the odds makers in Las Vegas made us 8-point favorites over Atlanta, and we just rolled.
He is the Denver Broncos. He's in that special group with John Elway and a handful of others that took us to the first Lombardi, then delivered one 12 months later.
The way he played for us and what he did for our defense is, the reason why we won 2 in a row. It's hard to get there, and it's even harder to win it.
He set the standard. There wasn't any time that you can turn the film on and see 27 not hustling to the ball. Defense is about want to and desire and the will to overcome obstacles. And you don't know when the play starts, but you can make it end. And Steve Atwater was the king of ending plays.
Game-changing moments. That's, to me, what Steve Atwater was about.
When we were leaving Denver, I was trying to do like a really small party for him before we leave. And it turned out to be like a really big party because once the word got out, everybody wanted to come. And so we're sitting there and the waiter comes out and he's serving us. And then everybody runs out and he just starts crying.
Fortunately, I came into a great environment, with coaches and players who were accepting and, just a positive attitude, an owner who provided anything that the team needed to win because he wanted to win. It was like the perfect environment, and I was lucky to, be in this situation. I could have gone other places where I know it wasn't like this, and I doubt very seriously I would have had the career that I had.
After spending the 1999 season in New York with the Jets, Steve Atwater hung up his cleats for the final time and moved to Atlanta to raise his kids and be near his family. But it would only be a matter of time before the Atwaters returned to Denver.
So at that time, we had our 3 sons, Stephen, DeAndre, and Paris. And then we had a daughter in 2000, Malaysia. And so we were like any parent. We had 4 young children.
We were raising our kids, our beautiful children, and also business real estate, stock market, the whole 9 yards. Made a bunch of mistakes, learned a lot of things.
For me, being a young guy coming in, I got to witness just the way he was in meetings, the way he was on the practice field, the way he was off the field, how he is with his family. That is how you be professional, period, in life, and I really took a lot of those things from him.
He was always a guy looking forward. He was always a guy looking forward and looking ahead. Many times, I'm in the locker room, and at lunchtime, oftentimes, Steve Atwater would be reading a book on finance or investments or something of this nature. And he's not the only one who might be doing such a thing, but I will say it wasn't 53 for 53.
You know, I think our focus was really, finally, he could be like fully present for the kids too. And our focus was just making sure that they could have like their own life. They wanted to play football, and he really wanted them to have a life playing football without just being like his kids, but like to really like step in. He coached them in football and basketball. We were at ballets and, you know, all kinds of dance recitals and gymnastics. We were just like regular parents.
Since I was born, you know, after he finished playing, people always say I missed out on the golden years, but I think that the golden years started when I was born, selfishly, but kind of after he finished playing, because even though he wasn't a football player anymore, he was a dad, a full-time dad, and I think being able to grow up in a house with him, I was taught from a very young age the importance of hard work, resilience, passion, and just committing to something. When I want to do something, committing to it and giving it my absolute all.
It was never, you have to play football, you have to be a free safety, do all that kind of stuff. We always wanted to do that, obviously, because we really looked up to him and really wanted to kind of carry out the quote-unquote Atwater legacy, follow in his footsteps. But for him, it was never pressure to follow directly in his footsteps, but more so just to, whatever we do, obviously do it to the best of our ability, and then anything else will fall into place there.
On the field, you see aggression and violence and just such a physical presence. Outside, all you see is smiling, caring, hugs, love.
It was nothing like what other people see, you know, on the TV. He actually never brought any of the football stuff in the house. I was the youngest son. I honestly wasn't even that interested in playing football for a while. And, you know, after a while, I began playing just because I felt like everybody wanted me to. But he constantly pulled me to the side and told me to do it for me and not try to do it for them, because, you know, if I end up doing that, at the end of it, it's not gonna end well. And he always just cared for us, you know. Always wanted us to do the best thing for us and look out for others around us and try to teach us, you know, the cornerstones of being a man.
I look at his family and it speaks volumes about who he is, who he married, the kids that they've raised together. They're just a very special group of people, and he gives all the credit to Letha, but he gets at least credit for picking Letha.
I love that he sets a great example for our children and that he's a family man. We're kind of a testament to staying in things, in relationships, and like being happy together. Like we truly, genuinely love and respect each other. And that's more meaningful, I think, than anything.
After the Atwaters left Colorado, New York, Georgia, and Maryland all became home for a time, but Steve was never too far away to make it back to Denver for big games, Ring of Fame inductions, and alumni reunions. In 2016, Steve's unforgettable career was finally recognized by the Hall of Fame Selection Committee. He was named a finalist for the first time. But later that year, he became yet another legendary Broncos safety to be overlooked.
At one point in the process, Ken Houston was the last true safety that had been put in the Hall of Fame, and I believe his last game was in the 80s. That's where the process was when Steve became eligible. There were no safeties going in the Hall of Fame. I stood up in a meeting one time and said, I hope we put a safety in before I'm dead. And Rick Goslin from Dallas looked at me and said, well, we'll have 6 safeties be your pallbearers. So that was kind of where it was in the room at that point.
Now at the time, it was such an uphill battle for safeties to get into Canton. They were kind of roadblocked, and that position didn't get its due. And I've talked with Steve at great lengths. We're thrilled for each other. We're also thrilled for that position because we both really respect the value, the level of importance it has to success. because safeties are asked to do a little bit of everything. They can have a great say in the outcome of games.
There are so many great players who have played this game, and there are guys who are in the seniors pool who I believe deserve to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And it's a difficult job. That I've said this before, and people may have thought I was just saying it, but that's a difficult job being the voters and having to come up with guys who have had great careers.
I told Steve during the process, and I've told Champ Bailey and Terrell Davis, Shannon Sharp. I've told Randy Gradishar, who I've spoken to many times about how difficult this process is. You have to be in the room to get in. And Steve kept coming in. There was a point when one year he was not a finalist after he had been a finalist. And at that point, I had a little bit of a sliver of nervousness.
I just wanted him to keep believing that it was going to happen. Like, he had already done the work. We couldn't go back and change anything that was going to happen in any game. I felt that he had a stellar career, and he's a great person. And I just thought that all of that kind of spoke for itself, and we just needed to be patient. So each time something, we would get that phone call or whatever, it was like, it's coming, it's coming. It didn't happen now, but it's coming. And that was just how we looked at it.
It's hard to get in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It's incredibly hard, and it should be hard. Sometimes it is splitting hair, and these selectors prepare all year long to go through this process, and they take it, I assure you, very, very seriously. So it's not easy, but I will say this, the Broncos are on a roll right now.
Coming up, the Mile High City welcomes Steve Atwater home.
When you work in the team setting, you see a lot of the alumni over time without necessarily getting to know them. And he was just a guy that every time I saw him at events, saw him in public, there is something so warm and gracious about him. He's just a prince of a guy, and all he does is lift people up.
I remember seeing Mac. I come to town for a game, and I ended up doing some event we did with the mayor, and Mac was there. I remember him telling him, hey man, if you ever move back here, hey, we're gonna find a spot for you. And I'm like, yeah, all right. But I was thinking, like, he's just saying. He probably tells it to everyone.
The first 2 times, I think he just walked away thinking I was some strange dude trying to pull something. The time it seemed to click, we were playing at Tampa Bay.
I go down, I'm at the game, and what are the chances we run into each other there? And we run into each other, and my wife is there, and he tells my wife, hey, we need to get you guys back to Denver. We get you guys back to Denver, we're gonna find a place for Steve. And I was like, man, is he serious? This is the second time he said that.
At the time, his one son's in Georgetown, one son's at Princeton, his daughter's about to go to high school. And he said, well, when Malaysia gets done with school, then we'll consider it.
All I had heard growing up was how great Colorado was. Like, my family loved Colorado, and I felt left out because I didn't have any memories there. So my dad, when he said, well, we should move back to Colorado, I was like, yes, absolutely. But I didn't want him to change my mind, so I made him sign a little contract that was like, we will move to Colorado at the end of XYZ year.
We had been talking with our children and asked them where they wanted to live once they finished college and everything, and it was all Colorado. They wanted to live in Colorado. And so my wife was like, hey, all right, let's see if we can make it happen. So we called Mac, and I was like, hey, Mac, hey, we're gonna be moving up. Were you serious? And he's like, yeah, I'm serious.
He's just a very special individual, and I knew he would add value in ways that there are things you wouldn't even put in a job description, because he has intangibles, and it's what made him a great teammate. It's what's made him a great part of this community. It's what's made him a great member of the organization in a totally new role from what his first version was.
Manager of Fan Development, that's the title where I would be interacting with our fans, interacting with our season ticket holders, some with the team, some with the players, when I can.
When I was drafted, he really was just a friend. A guy that came up to me and introduced himself as if I didn't know who he was, and just said, like, if you ever need anything, you know, always feel free to reach out. I mean, the tidbits, the football knowledge that he has, I mean, you couldn't compare it.
He fit right in. I mean, it wasn't a question. I mean, he was open to do whatever needed, and that's the kind of guy he is.
I mean, Steve is an unassuming superstar. I mean, Steve has never boasted about anything. Steve has always been the same Steve that I knew when I was asking him to do an interview in the locker room when I was doing color for the Broncos in the early '90s, to doing a preseason game with him when he was my color analyst, to doing a radio show with him, which I've done before. He's just a humble, hardworking, and very deserving guy.
I remember when Mac first told me, hey man, I think I got a radio show for you. I was like, what? A radio show? You know, I've never done this before. How do I do it? How do I navigate it? But once I started doing it, I really started to enjoy it. And when I first started, I was all over the place trying to get information. Now I know where to get the information from, and reliable information, and then I use my own two eyes to watch film and see, who can play and who can't. And I think I got a pretty good eye for that.
Coming up next, Steve Atwater finally receives the coveted David Baker knock, only for his Hall of Fame enshrinement to be put on hold.
Steve Atwater, The Road to Canton, is presented by Icon Pass, the preferred ski pass of Broncos country.
On February 1st, 2020, the Atwaters gathered in Miami in anticipation of being named one of the 5 modern-era finalists selected for the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
It was crazy because it seemed like some things were happening differently this time than the last time. It just seemed like there were little hints were dropped that it was a chance. I don't think they even knew then.
We were just like laughing and joking. Mac being there was really helpful because he was like joking around with Steve.
Part of me being there was almost afraid it wouldn't happen again and just wanted to be there to love him through it. But no, there was some screw up with the schedule. And I think we got, there's that 1 hour or 90 minutes you have to buy. And I think, we were down to 4 minutes maybe.
Our son had like this whole dilemma because traffic was bumper to bumper, and he had to get out of the Uber to like run, and it started to rain. He's drenched when he gets in the room, but we're like, after a certain time, we're not gonna open the door. We were really putting pressure on him.
You better get in before 2:30.
He has his
I ran a mile and a half.
You ran a mile and a half?
You'll see.
Probably like a psychopath running down the streets in the all-white fit.
He just get out the sidewalk. It seemed like I was more hopeful this time than in previous years, and just sitting in that room, we got the false call, Mike Kliss.
No. Holy dude.
You gotta be freaking kidding me. Oh, I'm glad it was him though.
Of all the times you don't want to fake someone out with a ringing phone, it's when they're waiting for that and the call is not the one you want the knock and not the call.
But I'm like, yes, that wasn't David Baker, we're still in it. And so everybody in the room, we got kind of a boost of energy right there, like, yes, we're still in it.
There are a lot of times before I knock on the door, a lot of times for guys I got to call them and say, hey, I hope I get to call you next year with better news, but you weren't selected today. And I did that for several times with Steve. And man, when I knocked on his door, I remember him shouting, and I could hear it through the door.
Come on! No freaking way, man. That sounds like a David Baker knock. Oh, yes, sir.
Welcome to Canton, brother.
That's not a kiddie knock. That's not one of the maid service knocks. That's a David Baker knock. And man, that was an amazing moment. And I'm so happy that my wife and Mac and my son, they were all there to celebrate it with me.
Wifey. Yeah.
Oh,
Thank God she didn't leave the room.
Oh,
Right? She wanted to leave the room.
I thought you were about to leave the room. You was about to leave the room.
the look on his face, he was so extraordinarily happy. And just like all the pride and everything that you can imagine in a moment that you waited for so long.
It's an honor, you know. It's a lot of great guys in that group, and I'm fortunate to be one of the 5 that are selected today. And it's like one of the greatest, absolutely one of the greatest days of my life.
Before long, Steve started to prepare for his induction in August. But in March of 2020, the world came to a stop. So many had to put their lives on hold, but Steve did what he always has. He smiled and persevered.
As time progressed, the COVID cases were steadily increasing, and my wife and I, we were wondering if it was going to happen because we had our doubts that it was going to happen.
When COVID hit, we had to decide in the best interest of safety to put it over 1 more year. And every guy, certainly including Steve, was very understanding. But we don't want to have a virtual enshrinement. We want it to be them and their family and their friends. We want them to walk that gauntlet of all those Hall of Famers. It's an incredible experience.
The board went through a bunch of gyrations to come up with the final solution, which was to have a great weekend where both classes went in. Class 2020 went in on Saturday, and Class 2021 went in on Sunday.
So happy, even though we aren't in the same class, he's in 20, I'm in 21, that we get to experience not only being brothers in the Hall of Fame, but doing it on the same weekend. It's a great thrill for each of us.
In May of 2021, the Atwater family traveled to Canton, Ohio to begin planning Steve's Hall of Fame weekend. Pro Football Hall of Fame President David Baker welcomed them as they took their final steps toward Induction Saturday.
Just seeing the faces of, you know, so many greats, you know, John Madden and, you know, Ronnie Lott. And, you know, these are guys that I grew up watching, grew up admiring, grew up trying to be like. And, you know, you can get them all in one room and, you know, get a chance to, you can just talk to them. And sometimes they'll talk back.
At some point in time, the teleprompter will go off.
Yeah.
And
teleprompter, you got to be on your own then.
And then if we go to a commercial and the music is up, you still don't come, I come get you.
It looks like, I know in the past, guys have gone well past
the
time, and
anymore.
they're kind of going off script.
Yeah, well, yeah, we've had them go 30, 35 minutes, and obviously if you've got 19 guys, you can't do that.
Yeah,
you can't do it for 12 on one night. We really can't do it for 7 now. It'll be great.
This is beautiful, baby.
Okay, buddy. Are you ready for it?
I'll be ready when the time comes. I don't know. I can't say I'm quite ready right now. It's still, you know, being here is, you know, it's making it more real and
but that's why we
bringing it to life.
Getting here and seeing it.
Yeah.
You can envision it now.
It was a crazy process. Just, you know, having to look after so many details. The party was probably the biggest thing that we had to plan. I got to give my wife a shout out, Letha. She did a lot of planning. Lisa Williams and Kelsey Zimmerman, they did about as much work as my wife Letha did. So big shout out to them as well. But Lisa, she had some experience. She had helped with John's induction, with Mr. Boland's induction, with Terrell's induction. She had a lot of connections that made it so seamless for us. Once we got there and we saw it all, we're like, yeah, this is perfect.
Coming up next, Steve Atwater gives us an inside look at his enshrinement weekend and reflects on what it means to be a Hall of Famer. With every detail of Hall of Fame weekend meticulously planned and in place, it was finally time for Steve to be recognized for his phenomenal football career. NFL fans from around the world gathered in Canton to celebrate the heroes of the game, and after 18 months of waiting, Steve was ready to soak up every second.
With COVID going on, we hadn't really been interacting with many people. And to have a group of people being able to come through, got a chance to talk with them, got a chance to meet them and, you know, put a smile on their face. They put smiles on our faces. That was fun, just knowing, hey, this is just the start of it.
All right, for those of you that are seated, just put your hands on your knees. Everyone else, just cross your arms like this.
You know, it's really a needed environment where there's just mutual respect all across the room. Over the years, you meet someone, and then when you get together, it's just like old times. To get the jacket finally, and to have my guy Dennis Smith be there right with me, just like we were in our playing days, that was special as well. The after party and the turnout, it was simply amazing. You know, what more can a person ask for? You know, that's, you know, have all your friends, family in one place, you know, having a wonderful time. That's normally at a funeral. It normally doesn't happen while you're still alive.
When I wear this gold jacket, this to me is representative of all of you. All right, this is like, every last one of you can pull a couple of threads, or don't pull them out, but feel as though you have some threads in this gold jacket. So whenever you see me wear it, you should feel like, hey, I had something to do with that. Because you did. And I appreciate that. Appreciate you all. I love you. Let's have some fun. Let's get it.
I wouldn't change one thing with the whole weekend. It was that, and especially the party. It was beautiful. Man, the city of Canton, they just opened up their arms and welcomed us all in. You know, we have great fans out there that support the NFL, and that was on full display at the parade. And yeah, my wife, she got a chance to enjoy it. My kids, they really had a good time, and everyone was, my wife and kids, we all kind of felt the same way, that Canton, they opened up their arms for us and welcomed us there.
Ladies and gentlemen, presenting Steve Atwater for enshrinement into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Dennis Smith.
Reflecting on how important it was to have Dennis there, man, it was again, it was like our playing days. He was like my big brother, you know, when I came into the league.
You know, the fact that he asked me to present him was an honor that, you know, it was overwhelming. He could have chosen anyone else, you know, but the fact that he chose me, it just really was a tremendous honor for me, and I really appreciate it.
I feel like Dennis should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and he's not, and it's just a small way for me to show him that, you know, I really appreciate him taking me under his wings, treating me like his little brother, and, you know, also just my respect for the way he played the game.
I think maybe now with guys like this going in, like Steve, John Lynch, you know, maybe I'll jump in there before my lifetime ends. But I'm just happy to be in there. And Steve Atwater, you know, his middle name is Dennis, so part of me is in there already.
When Dennis and I took the cover off of it, yeah, that was special. That was kind of another kind of surreal moment. Like, man, this is real. You know, it's not clay anymore. This is like the bronze bust that's going to be in Canton for thousands of years. My main message was I didn't get to the Hall of Fame alone. Although I was the one out on the field making the tackles, that's a small part of it. You know, your mental strength has to be at an all-time high, I think, to play this game. My wife and family, they provided that for me while I played. You got to have, you know, great teammates, great coaches, great trainers to, you know, get you back in shape. And I just wanted them to know that I appreciate them, and I wouldn't be there without them. And, you know, all the people that have supported me over the years too. Yeah, I just want them to know how much I appreciate them.
You all have touched my life in one way or another, both on and off the field. And I appreciate you all. And finally, thank you, Broncos country. I love you all. God bless.
With his gold jacket on, his bronze bust unveiled, and his enshrinement speech given, the final piece was the ring. Steve would receive that honor in the same place his career began, in front of the fans, right here in the Mile High City.
For the ring ceremony, receiving my ring, man, in front of Broncos country, that was probably one of my favorite parts to becoming a Hall of Famer, to be able to receive this beautiful Hall of Fame ring in front of all the fans here. That meant the world to me.
This has been an amazing journey. The fans, the friends, the coaches, my wonderful teammates, my beautiful family have all made this so worthwhile and a dream come true.
After it was all over with, it felt like the journey had come full circle. And it's almost like, man, what do you do from here, right? I mean, you started playing football. I started playing football when I was 8 years old. Got a chance to play college football and then go into the NFL, play here with the best team in the NFL, Denver Broncos, knowing that I was able to play at a high level and that I'm considered one of the greatest players to play the game. And, just the journey. I think that's the thing that's most special, and just reminiscing on the whole process and all the wonderful people that I've met and I have relationships with from over the years. That's the beautiful thing. That's what life is all about.
If I can describe Steve in one word, you give me the hard question, one word. He's bigger than one word. He's bigger than one word. He's not one word. He is gracious,
tenacious, ferocious, relentless,
magnanimous,
very reliable,
rare,
heart of gold,
trustworthy.
When I mention his name, the first thing that comes to my mind is character.
It'll be professional.
I'll go back to love.
Humble.
One of the most humble people I've ever met in my whole life.
Special.
Physical specimen, awesome intelligence.
Yeah, the one word is Hall of Fame person.
Amazing. Just an amazing man. Amazing guy, amazing man, amazing friend, amazing father.
He's just such a sincere and truthful and honest person.
Wow. Maybe it's just that. Wow.
To me, he's my brother, man. He's just brother.
He played with a great deal of enthusiasm. He was a great leader, but he had a great deal of what I call character.